So the project today is the Anvil. There it is, look down there. So I only purchased it a few days ago, and basically I haven't really properly installed it yet. It's literally just mounted on a little bit of railway sleeper, which is way too low really for what I need to be doing. It's going to put my back out constantly trying to hammer down here. So I've bought some railway sleepers, some more of them, and the plan is I'm going to cross hash them, just cut them about 40 centimetres down, 2 a piece, and I'm going to have 2 side by side and then 2 crossing along the top. So that's the plan, and then obviously securing with these bloody great bad boys. Let's get started. So we're going to go 40 centimetres down. Unfortunately this is only a 30 centimetre ruler, so I have to do that twice. And we're going to cut 4 pieces out at this size. Nice and simple. Although there's a big old chunk of wood I'm cutting here, so it could take a little while. Right then. Here's number 1. One. There we go. Right, so a couple of things on that. One, I was hoping 2 sort of stacks would be enough, but I've just ended up cutting the whole thing going up to 3. I think that comes up to about my waist height for the Anvil. Only problem with that is I only bought enough screws to do 2 fittings, so I guess the 2 on the bottom, it's not a big deal. If the 2 at the bottom are loose, as long as they don't slide around, they should be fine. And I can always put in some just some little screws at either end just to stop the wood from sliding if that's what happens. Right, now I've just got to measure up and secure them. Ah, bloody hell, that was hard work. Right then, we are all measured up and held in place with clamps, so let's get to drilling and just hope that this works. Make sure I haven't fluffed up my measurements. Putting the first screw in. This could take quite a while. Oh, who's a clever boy then? Does make it somewhat easier. Whee! There we go. I've attached one of them. Second one's over there, but it has been absolutely chucking it down with rain. So that is all I'm going to be doing for today, because I'm soaked through. Now I've just got to try and get that anvil out of the way so I can put the base there, and then somehow figure out how I'm going to get the anvil on there. Because that thing weighs an absolute ton. Decisions to be made. Oh, come on. Oh. So, I actually ended up needing this extra bit of wood in order to get it to the right height. And just getting this thing up here has been an absolute mission. It weighs an absolute ton, but it's now pretty much there. Just trying to get this bit of wood to fit between these metal bars. Oh, there we go. Just cinch it up a little bit. There you go. It's not quite level, but I reckon that will probably settle down over time just with the weight to make it secure. The next thing I'm going to do is chain this thing to this. Try and get rid of some of that ring. There we are, done. I've given it a few little whacks with that hammer, and sure enough, now it's pretty steady. It ain't really budging. So I'm going to wrap some chains around, and I'm going to bolt it to either this or this, and we'll see what works. Here we are. Got my bits of chain. So I'm going to be wrapping these around the anvil and securing them to the piece of wood. I've already done one side, so you can have a look. So just literally wrap round and then bolt it in. And I'm just midway through drilling these holes. I've got to do the other side over there, and then that should hopefully be secure and nice and tight. So that should help diffuse some of the impact into the wood, so that it quietens down the anvil slightly. Maybe. Now chain down and absolutely solid. Going nowhere, and it has actually slightly helped to reduce the ring. So yeah, job well done though, I think. Now the last thing regarding this anvil I've been umming and ahhing about doing, and I'm been pretty scared of, is to try and flatten the top down. It's not probably all that easy to see on camera, but if you look at the surface, it's pretty wibbly wobbly, and it's got this real sort of dent going down the middle of it. And you know, it's not exactly very flat and even. It has managed to keep most of its edge. So what I'm thinking is, you can see here, this anvil has a hardened plate that's been stuck on top of the cast iron, or wrought iron, one or the other. And this is tempered, so I don't want to heat it, and I don't want to weld it. So little dinks like this I'm not too worried about, they can stay. But I do want to try and flatten it down a bit, so I'm going to give it several go-overs with the angle grinder, and see if we can't sort of try and flatten out, because I want a nice corner on this. But as it stands, you can see there's a fair old, you can actually see daylight through there. So that's the next mission. I don't think I'm going to do too much to it, because I am petrified of ruining the temper. But we'll see if we can't make it a little bit better at least. Well, we're getting there. It's a lot better than it was. Relatively flat now. Trouble is, I'm still not really getting to these edges, so I might just have to settle for a bit of a flat surface, and then I might cut in the side maybe slightly, just to try and get more of an edge. But that's about an hour's work, both with the angle grinder and the bolt grinder. But yeah, getting there. Well,
I've got through 3 sanding belts just getting it to this stage, but it is looking a lot better. Sorry if my voice sounds weird, I'm still wearing my nose clip, but you can see that it's a lot flatter than it was. There's still a decent dip just here, but I think, to be fair, I'm going to be lucky to get that out, so I'll settle for it just being relatively flat. This pritcher hole stands out quite proud. You can see just how much material has been removed. That's filled it, but I think I'm going to attack it with the angle grinder again and then probably try and smooth it off again with the belt sander.
Best thing about making lots of grinding dust is making sparks. Lots of sparks. I know, it's really simple, but you know what? It amuses me. So, here is where we're up to. We are a lot better than we were, but we've still got quite a long way to go, and that dip there is still pretty significant. But this part was very raised, so we are slowly getting there. And if I get my set square, you can see that while still not perfect, we're a lot better than we were. Where are we? But I mean, even that, to be fair, is definitely getting smaller. And you know, up here we're almost, not quite. That side's a little bit better actually, but we're almost better. So we're getting there. We've got through 3 grinding belts so far. Well, 3.5. The 4th is midway through. Yeah, I reckon we're probably about halfway, and that's about, I don't know, 2-3 hours worth of grinding right there. FYI, a good little trick for getting metal dust out of lots of little nooks and crannies is just to get a simple little magnet, because that comes right out. Actually looks quite cool. There we go, done. And there we go. That is it. About as good as I think I'm going to be able to get it. With the amount of dust. Jesus, don't breathe. I still can't get this dip fully out, but for the rest of it, I mean, that's pretty, well, compared to what it was anyway, it is a marked improvement. So at least now I can actually hammer on something flat. Again, the corners still not as pronounced as I'd like, but you know what, I can work on that later. This isn't a one-time thing, I can come back and do this whenever, so I'm pretty happy with how this turned out today. It was about 4 hours worth of grinding, but you know, at least you can actually see a difference, so happy days. Almost like a mirror. I remember hearing somewhere that you shouldn't make it too fine, so I've only gone to a 120 grit, because if it's too fine, when you're hitting the metal it will actually skid and you can sort of lose your place, so it's actually worth keeping it a little bit sort of gritty, just to maintain your grip. So that's probably about as far as I'm going to get it. So again, there's all the different belts I've gone through, plus the one on the actual thing, and that is the well, certainly for now, the finished Anvil. So yeah, not a wasted day in my opinion. So I bought this new 4-pound hammer. It's a nice little sort of square rounding hammer, but the rounding on it for some reason came with this horrible black paint all over it. I don't know why they did that, and it's also this weird sort of design where it's kind of lumpy and bumpy. So I've tried knocking it against the anvil a few times to get the paint off, but I think I'm just going to grind it and make sure it's completely nice and circular, and then I might turn my other sort of mallet into a nice little cross-peen hammer instead. There we go. It's not got the design out completely, but it's made it pretty much flush, so that should work pretty well. It's actually quite a nice hammer though, otherwise. Nice little flat head. Now we've got a nice round one, so we'll be able to both draw out and shape. Right, next hammer. So this is the hammer I normally use. It started its life as just a flathead hammer, and it was the same on both sides, but first thing I did when I bought it was I rounded off the corners and made it into more of a rounding hammer, which has served me very well actually. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the rounding side, but I'd quite like a cross peen, like a nice thick cross peen. So I've just made some marks, and I'm going to cut off each of these corners, and so I've got like a nice flat line going through the middle of this. That's the plan. Holy moly, this is taking a long time. Still probably in total maybe just over, actually just over halfway I guess. But Christ, that's a lot of metal to cut, and with a very small blade. That was full size when I put it on. Used as much of the blade as we've cut the hammer. Nearly there. Well, actually I'll say that, nearly there. We've only done one half, we've still got to go across the other side. I would touch it, except this whole hammer is absolutely cooking at the moment. There we go. Halfway done. It's a fairly decent slab of steel that came off that. And I imagine that's pretty bloody hot. Hang on a second. Where's my glove gone? There it is. Let's try and... hang on, bear with me. There we go. Let's have a look. Yeah, just a bit warm. I'm not going to be touching the hammer anytime soon, because that's going to be just as hot as well. And there we are, a rounding and a cross peen hammer. Put that there. So we've now got a rounding and a cross peen, and a rounding and a flat on a newly secured and put on a stand and slightly restored Anvil. So all in all, not a bad bit of an upgrade really, I don't think. Long overdue anyway, some of it.